What's going on, guys? UFC 305 is upon us, and I have so much going on, with this card. Tonight, I was literally ripping film. I was literally going back through my notes. I was taking notes, and I do everything old school. I go back. I have notes in my phone that I upload to my computer as the fights are on. These actual fighters are fighting. As I'm, watching film, I actually old school, pen, paper, notepad, write things down, transport them to my computer. So I do everything old school. I'm not like one of these new guys that do the metrics and do, he had 2 takedowns here, he had 3 takedowns there. It's not the way this process for me works. And I've been doing this for a decade, and I'm very, very ahead of the curve when it comes to picking a lot of these fights. I am wrong. It is fighting. There are certain times I am wrong. But even when I am wrong, I do give you a pretty good streamline of what can happen on either side. It's just not about, well, he's got good takedown defense and this guy's got good striking. Anybody can tell you that. Anybody can tell you all those little facts. But it's the fact, what do you think is going to happen in the fight? How does it shake out both ways? If Izzy wins, how does he win? If DDP wins, how does he win? And what did he do to kind of confuse Izzy? So I get into like the bare bones of it. And then whatever happens, however it unfolds, is how it unfolds. But, the reason why I want to pigeonhole in this fight a little bit tonight, and it's 11:30 here on the West Coast. But like I said, I just had so much in my head about this fight. I just got done about 20 minutes ago watching film, and I was going to wrap it up, and I was going to go to bed. I said, let me jump on here. Let me at least get one fight out of the way, get it out early to you guys, give my thoughts and stuff like that. Before we do jump into it, though, we are having a monster special for the card this week, UFC 305. We have... obviously, if you guys know the card, review the card, you can see it's a really big card. Last week's card was really terrible. I got to be honest with you, it was actually just last night, and I was in my Discord, and we just could not believe how bad of a card it was. I mean, it was one of them cards, like, why did you even throw that card? I mean, it was just a terrible, terrible landscape of fights. And not only that, but what made matters worse is the people just weren't performing. I mean, guys like Danny Barlow, he never showed up. Guys just weren't going for it. A couple guys did. Mariscal did. Obviously, Sergey Spivak with a really nice armbar submission from back. We picked him to win that fight. Wasn't expecting him to get an armbar from guard. But, there's certain spots but the majority of the card was really, really bad. So this is like a stark jump off. So what we're doing for UFC 305 is, obviously, if you sign up to the site at the madlabmma.com, you're getting like a 15,000 word breakdown on every single fight. You're getting full data, metrics. Steve, Air Force One, does every fighter, gives you every fighter metric on the card. We give you full wagering blueprint, full DFS. Literally everything from soup to nuts. Whether you're just doing it to learn, like you just want to read a synopsis on each fight and see what you're getting into, whether you're doing it for wagering or whether you're doing it for DFS, we have every single angle covered. We have a live stream before the fight. We have an awesome Discord with, guys that have been in there for years. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a great community where you'll become friends with them. All like-minded people, all very respectful, all very mature. We plan on keeping it that way. Also, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be launching our football product. Obviously, football's only a couple weeks away. So if you join now, you will get football absolutely free for the season. So for the price of what you're getting for MMA, you will be getting football. You'll be getting our wagering blueprints. You will be getting our DFS content. You will be getting the Value Bully tool that we're building, which is not a white label tool. It's actually a tool that we created. So it's not mimicking a source like all these companies. They go out, they get optimizers, they get this, they get that, and it's basically one product, but they just white label it and put their name on it. This is something that we kind of built in-house, like a formula that you could use in conjunction with your optimizers. It's not an optimizer, it's kind of a value tool. So you'll be getting all that plus all the MMA for the price of the MMA. I mean, it's insane. It's an insane deal. So you sign up to madlabmma.com, you get in there before football. For as long as you're in there, you'll get football free. So, you really, really can't beat that. But as far as this card, I really want to spend some time, like I said, on this main event. And when you're looking at these two guys, and you got to bear with me a little bit because I'm going to be reverting back to my phone to get certain things because, like I said, I'm not in the studio. But when you look at these two guys, it's pretty amazing how the masses always kind of stay on the same island, right? So that the guys who know what they're talking about, the guys who've been in the game for a while, they know, like, kind of how special Izzy is as far as what he's done in this sport. Guy comes from a kickboxing background, beats the best of the best, beats everybody there is to be beat. Gets knocked out by Alex Pereira, who nobody can solve his riddle. He comes back and he slays the dragon. Comes back, he obviously loses to Sean Strickland, and he kind of disappears for a while. But if you look at this guy's resume, and you look at everybody he's beaten, the same people that are still either saying that he's not that good, or he's a little overrated, or that DDP is going to win this fight, are the same people that just continuously bet against him and bet against him and bet against him and bet. It's the same thing with Alex Pereira. How many guys has Alex Pereira fought that people just continuously bet against him? How many people thought that Yuri was going to beat him the first time? How many people thought on the rebound Yuri was going to beat him again? I sold on him. I literally sold on it, and that's fine. Like, you can get on that wagon, you could jump on it, and you could ride it till you're blue in the face. But 90% of the time, when you use that kind of philosophy, because you want to be the underdog, because you want to be right, because you want to be the one that says, like, I told you, 90% of the times that doesn't work out for you. And if people would call these people out on their track records, and like some of these people putting out 5-6 unit bets on Yuri and underdogs and stuff like that, like, ask them, show me your ticket. Show me the ticket where you actually put 5 units on this guy. Like, it's easy to go out and say, yeah, I put 5-6 units on Yuri, or I put 5-6 units on DDP, say Dricus for this fight. It's easy to say that. But show us the ticket. Like, show me the ticket where you actually did that. You actually went and put $500, $600, $700 on Dricus. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's easy to say it, but then when you don't see the line moving that much, and you see the ownerships in DraftKings and stuff, it doesn't really vindicate or justify it, in certain spots. And I've seen it numerous times. There's numerous times where I've seen it justified, where I said, all right, well, they are sticking to their guns. But then there's a lot of times where I'm like, where's all this popularity for this one, for fighter A? But meanwhile, the line hasn't moved or shifted the opposite direction, or in DraftKings, the ownership projection for them are super, super low. Where's all the popularity? Where's all the everybody on X, tweeting about how he's going to win, or how she's going to win? So I think a lot of the recency bias, what happens is in today's world of MMA, and we could probably thank Conor McGregor for a lot of it, is a lot of people came over because of Conor McGregor. We talk about this all the time, right? Then they kind of put their foot in the pool of MMA. And these are the same people that thought Floyd Mayweather would lose to Conor. These are the same people that thought Khabib would lose to Conor. The same people that think that when Conor comes back, he's going to run roughshod over everybody. I'm not going to say unintelligent, and I'll say uninformed, fans. And I think that a lot of that rolls over to a lot of these fights. They see one fighter have a really, really good outing, and they're like, he's the next champion. I remember I saw it with Ozdemir. When Ozdemir was knocking people out, in the beginning of his career, people were calling him for title shot. I seen it with Robert Whittaker. When Robert Whittaker fought Jared Cannonier, everybody thought that Cannonier was going to destroy him. We've seen it with, just numerous stuff. We've seen it with Izzy against Pereira. I've seen it with Yuri twice against Pereira. We see it all the time. We see it all the time, over and over and over. And eventually, the shit's going to stick once or twice. It's going to. It's fighting. This is what we're into. Eventually, it's going to stick once or twice. And then they'll come out, oh my God, I told you, dog. So it's like, if you look at the track record, 8 out of 10 times, they're wrong. But then when that shit sticks once, it's they jump, and everybody jumps. And it's more of a recency bias, like a public thing. I think a lot of it is public perception. One of the fights I'll bring that was a recent fight was Joel Alvarez. When Joel Alvarez fought in his last fight against Elvis Brenner, there was something about that fight where everybody was all over Elvis Brenner. And I was like, why? Like, why is everybody on Elvis Brenner? What is the rhyme and reason? You got to give me like a rhyme and reason why. Well, he's a dog. I get it. He is a dog. The dude is super, super tough. I get it. He comes from that whole, Shuto box background, and, those dudes are dogs. I get it. But what is it about Joel Alvarez that you're so confident that he's going to beat Joel Alvarez? Like, what? You can't be an underdog that many times, and you can't get into that many wars where you're clipped and you come back from the depths of hell to win a fight. Like, that's not going to work out for you all the time. And I kept preaching, like, in certain weight divisions, size does matter. Like, size matters. And I said, like, I don't know why everyone's so confident on Elvis Brenner. And it was really a recency bias thing. A couple of these outlets come out and they say, well, Elvis Brenner, and then the uninformed will spread it to their people, and the uninformed spread it to their people. Meanwhile, Joe Alvarez made him look horrendous, made him look like a child in there. And it was a weight bully thing. Now, maybe he would have dogged through it and I would have looked foolish. I've looked foolish before. I've looked foolish before. I looked foolish when I picked Aljo over Sean O'Malley. I've looked foolish there. But majority of the time, I don't look foolish because I use common sense. Like, I use the commonology and of my own eye test, and that's what you guys should be doing. Like, you guys should. There's so many outlets out there. They open up every day. Every time I open up YouTube, there's another outlet. There's another outlet. There's another outlet. Like, you got to use your own instinct and your own eye test. Like, you don't have to agree with the masses. You don't, because chances are you probably know just as much as they do. You know what I mean? So, with a fight like this, I see it again. Like, I see it again. I see people disrespecting Izzy with the landscape of body of work that this guy did in his career. It's ludicrous how people can, like, just, like, write this guy off. It's actually ludicrous. Now, if you want to go through this guy's resume, we're going to go through both of their resumes. We're going to go from resume to style to the matchup. But let's just go through the resume first. I mean, how can anybody discount this guy? Like, it literally blows me away. Let's pull this up. Okay. Now, the one thing I will say that works against him a little bit in this, and really not that much, but he is 35. Like, he's borderline 36 years old. He's 35. How many more of these fights does he have in him? Because he is a timing fighter. He is a striker, and it's a different animal. It's a totally different animal when you're a timing striker. You need that snap, and you need, those certain bearings in your body. And once you're hitting 35, 36, 37, you've been in some big fights, you've been, around the block a few times, you can slow down. The layoff, also a little bit of an issue for me, even though I think the layoff for him, a guy like him who's very smart, who's very calculated, who knows what his body, listens to his body, I think it is beneficial for him to certain spots, but the timing thing for me would be my question. How is his timing going to be coming back? Because Israel Adesanya is that's what made him great, his timing. So when you look at his resume here, okay, we're going to go to his, where is it? Right here, mixed martial arts record. All right, let's go all the way back down to where he debuted, okay? He beat Rob Wilkinson by TKO. He beat Marvin Vettori, split decision. He beat Brad Tavares. He beat Derek Brunson. He beat Anderson Silva. He beat Kelvin Gastelum. He beat Robert Whitaker. He beat Yoel Romero. He beat Paulo Costa. He lost to Jan Blachowicz because he bumped up to light heavyweight. Now, the people that call him for, go up to light heavyweight and fight Pereira at light heavyweight and watch what happens. No, he's not going to go up to light heavyweight, and he's not going to fight Pereira at light heavyweight. He's not a light heavyweight. When he fought Blachowicz, he was grossly undersized in that fight. His body just can't hold light heavyweight. So that's a stupid argument. Like, go to light heavyweight. Or we might as well just go to heavyweight and fight too then. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. So he lost to Jan Blachowicz. Comes back to middleweight. He beats Marvin Vettori. He beats Robert Whitaker. He beats Jared Cannonier. He loses to Alex Pereira. He beats Alex Pereira. Knocks him out cold. And then he fights Sean Strickland. He loses to Sean Strickland. So that is a murderer's row of people he's fought his entire career outside of the Rob Wilkerson. And even Rob Wilkerson, he was a good fighter. I mean, Rob Wilkerson, if you watch him at PFL, he won the fucking damn thing, at one point in time. So the guy fought really, really, really good fighters. Champions, and beat them. I personally think, and I could be wrong, I personally think that him coming back to fight Sean Strickland, he did not take that fight seriously. That's my opinion. And I love me some Sean Strickland. I love Sean Strickland. I think Sean Strickland is like a true American patriot. I think he's excellent for the sport. But I really do believe that he took that fight lightly. I do. I believe he took that fight lightly. I think he was going through a little bit of a burnout at that point in time. He was kind of cutting corners in camp to kind of, make up to that burnout. Really thinking in his head, like, this guy's got nothing for me. He's got no style. I'm going to style on him. I'm going to stay away from him. He's going to do that whole Philly shell style to me, and I'm just going to penetrate him. And I really, really do believe that. And then if you watch that fight, and I've watched it twice in the last couple nights, he didn't even look like himself. Like he looked like he came in there in the first round, and he was getting his timing. And then once he started losing traction, I think he started realizing, like, I took this guy a little bit too lightly. And he just can never get it back. He can never get it back. He just couldn't get his timing back. He was getting frustrated in there. There's probably points in time where he really thought, like, wow, I'm going to actually lose this fight. Or I could lose this fight. And I just don't think it was his night. Like, I really, really don't. I think if they fight again, I think he beats him 5 times out of 5 times. Like, that's my honest opinion. I think if they do fight again, they beat him out of 5 out of 5. So now, when you go to the resume of Dricus, which I'll pull up right now. These are all things you got to talk about. Like people come in, oh, look at it, he's on a 3-fight loser streak, and who did he fight here? These are like the intricate nuances that you got to talk about. You got to go through all these things, to question people. Like this is a legitimate question. You got to go through the level of opposition they face. It's very, very important. So now you got Dricus. He's 5 years younger. Which obviously, the age always works in your favor to the most, for a lot of reasons. Okay, let's go when he first entered the UFC. All right, so Marcus Perez, not in the UFC. Trevin Giles, mediocre at best. Brad Tavares, kind of over the hill. Darren Till, not in the UFC. Derek Brunson, not in the UFC. Robert Whittaker, very good win. Sean Strickland, split decision, which I honestly think he lost, but very good win. Look at the difference in resumes alone. When you really, really think about it, he decisively beat one guy. He decisively beat Robert Whittaker. I mean, we're just talking facts here. We're not talking about stylistic matchups and who's going to wrestle who and who's going to knock out who. When you're looking at resumes alone and you're looking at his track record, I'll do it again. Marcus Perez out of the UFC. Trevin Giles, I don't even know if he's still in the UFC. I think he is because I think he canceled the fight not too long ago. Brad Tavares, he's good. He's very solid, but he's over the hill. Darren Till out of the UFC. Derek Brunson, old and out of the UFC. Great win. Great Robert Whittaker win. Sean Strickland, a fight that a lot of people argue that Sean won that fight, but he won by split decision, so I'll still say great win. So decisive victory. He's got one high-profile victory. One. Through Izzy's entire resume of victory. So just on, we're going to talk about from a wagering perspective. Just on a wagering perspective alone, okay, on a wagering perspective alone. Now, if you were going to sit here and you were going to tell me that I'm going to give you Dricus Du Plessis at plus 200, I'd say, you know what? I can get down with that. I could totally get down with that. Plus 200, I can get down with that. But when you're telling me you're giving me Dricus Du Plessis at plus 105, you're going to listen to somebody to tell you that that's a dog and you should put a lot of money on that? It's plus 105. It's even money. Even if you think he's going to win from a betting standpoint, it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even register to me just on resume alone. That doesn't even register to me. It's like, to me, if somebody were to come up to me and be like, bro, throw like fucking $1,000 on Dricus, I'd be like, dude, he's plus 105 going against the former champ, a guy who's fought everybody. You're telling me plus 105 is worth it? If you believe plus 105 is worth it, whether you think he's going to win or lose, by all means do it. But I'm just bringing reality into this. We're talking about money here. We're talking about, that end of it before we even talk about the matchups. But just from the money perspective, you got to give me more than plus 105 in a guy that's never been tested against a guy like Izzy before. And Izzy's been tested by guys and has beaten guys better than Du Plessis before. And he's not over the hill. He's not 40 years old. He's 35 years old. He took a little time off, rightfully so. Is there a question mark if he's going to come back the same guy? Of course there is. But at the end of the day, you're not giving me plus 105 and thinking an intelligent bettor, a sharp money bettor is going to throw a ton of money at him at even money. To me, that's ludicrous. I mean, it's honestly ludicrous. And if you watch the Sean Strickland fight, I'm sorry. Listen, I didn't have a really boat in the race in that fight. I do believe that Strickland won that fight. I do. And I think, and a lot of people I talk to think he won that fight. Now, that doesn't mean much because he beat Izzy, Strickland beat Izzy. So even if he did lose to Strickland, it wouldn't have no bearing on it. But the fact of the matter is at the end of the day, if that was the case, he would only beaten one guy in Robert Whittaker. You know, even if that was a decisive win, you could give him two. But then, okay, he beat Robert Whittaker. That's the only real hardcore legitimate guy he's ever beaten. So I just don't know where the common sense comes in on that end of it. Okay, from a stylistic perspective, let's talk about it from a stylistic perspective now. I think Dricus has a style to beat anybody. You know what I mean? I think he's a very strong character. He's got a very unique build to him. He's very athletic, yet he's got kind of like a bodybuilder build to him, which is not really, I mean, you see it with guys, I mean, Yoel Romero's a genetic freak, but you see it with guys like that. Like there's certain guys that have that kind of strong, powerlifting, bodybuilding, athletic way about him, and that is Dricus. The thing about Dricus is he a A+ athlete? No. And that doesn't, and don't take that the wrong way. It's not that I'm saying that he's not an A+ athlete, like he's not a professional athlete. I'm saying his athletic ability, he's not really light on his feet. He doesn't move gracefully. He's kind of like a bull in the china shop, but it works for him. And it works against a lot of guys because he can muscle his way in. He can use that awkward, like unathletic, herky-jerky style to get in on you and throw you off. He did it with Robert Whittaker. He caught him with a sweet, I mean, it was a straight. You know, he ended up actually, what really impressed me in that fight with Dricus was his switch to southpaw in that fight. I don't think many people expected him to do that, to switch off to southpaw. I know for me, when he came out, I was like, well, that was one of the first things I said. I was like, bro, he's in south, because I'm a southpaw. So I was like, wow, he just actually switched to southpaw. And then I really started watching him. I was like, he's actually decent at southpaw. When he was switching out, I was like, you know what? He's actually decent. He's done this before. Like, this isn't something where he just said, I'm going to start fighting southpaw. You just can't do that. Like, especially in striking. Like, if you're use of a certain orthodox style and then you switch off to southpaw, you could switch off for a second or two to give him a different look. But to stay in that situation like he did against a high-level guy with Robert Whittaker, I was really, really impressed by that. And that shows me that this guy absorbs things like a sponge. And it shows me that his game plan was on point, seriously on point for that fight. That's why he won the fight. He won the fight because he's a good fighter. But he also won the fight because he assembled and adhered to a really good blueprint that he saw against Whittaker, on film. So he's obviously doing his homework for this. This is a very important fight for him. It's a very important fight for Izzy, for legacy-wise, and obviously these guys are arguing over the whole African thing. That I'm not going to get into. There's no room for any of that for me. I don't think that has any bearing on how they're going to come out and fight. It brings good marketing appeal to the event, and I'm sure that's great, the Three Kings and all that stuff. But to me, that's I don't look into that stuff. I don't look into the back and forth and who hates who. I did with the Mokaev fight when he fought Manel Cape, and look how that fight turned out. These guys wanted to rip each other's heads off, and nothing happened. So I don't really look into that too much. I don't think that really weighs anything. I think it's good for marketing. It's good for publicity. It's going to bring some eyes to it, and that's about it. But from the stylistic perspective, he does have a style that, yes, if he implores it, he can beat Izzy. I think anybody who implores a really good game plan against anybody, if they're able to implement it, you can beat that fighter. There is a blueprint to beat everybody, but it's who can implement it. Can you implement the game plan to beat Izzy? Can you implement the game plan to beat Dricus? Can you implement the game plan to beat, anybody? Khabib, Conor, anybody. That's the point. We can sit down and we can look at film and say, look, I got the recipe to beat, Alex Pereira. This is what you need to do. We all know that the best way to beat him is, like, you really got to try to get this guy to the ground. You got to try to neutralize him, take his tools away from him, take his best assets away from him. That's what if we know that, everybody knows that. The best camps in the world know that. The best coaches in the world know that. The best fighters in the world know that. They just can't do it. So we could sit here all night and we could say, well, DDP, he's, Dricus, he's got his number. He knows what he has to do. Yeah, you know what you have to do. But when you get in there, when you see him across the cage and he's giving you looks and he's throwing feints at you, are you going to be able to implement that game plan? That's the question. Now, from Adesanya's standpoint, from a matchup perspective, when people look at him, it's funny to me because they brought up the recipe so many times to beat him, and it was, you got to take him to the ground, you got to take him to the ground, you got to take him to the ground. And this guy's got some tremendous takedown defense. The only time I've seen him really ragdoll around was against Jan Blachowicz, and that was just a size difference. Like, he just could not get the weight bully, to unbully him. He couldn't tame the weight bully. But any time else, when he fought somebody that was going to take him down, he's always had good takedown defense, like very above average, borderline extremely good. I don't like using the word great unless they're like elite level. So I would say very, like, in between very good and excellent. He's always had that. This is a fight where he knows that on a standing perspective on the feet, there's no comparison. There's zero comparison. Dricus can charge the pocket. He could throw punches. He can try to bully his way in. It may work. He may catch him with a shot. He may drop him. But at the end of the day, if you want to mess with a sniper like that, you're going to get sniped. Look what happened with Alex Pereira when he charged the pocket. When he came into the pocket and he started throwing punches. He just kind of played rope-a-dope a minute. He leaned back and he fired off a shot that knocked him out. Look what he has done to so many guys. I mean, so many guys. And it's not like he loads up on punches. He's not a big power puncher. He's not a guy who looks to take your head off in one shot. He does it with precision and speed. Speed and precision equal power. Like, you could throw all these crazy haymakers all you want, and if you land one, great. You're using a lot of energy expenditure, number one, when you're loading up like that, and you're just using real estate you don't need. Like, you don't need to wind up and load up on all these punches. So Dricus does a good job in staying on the center line when he throws, but he does overextend a little bit, and he's not the fastest guy in the world. So, if this stays on the feet, if he decides that he wants to stand and he wants to trade on the feet with Izzy, that's a death sentence, in my opinion. I think that's an honest death sentence. And I've watched enough boxing in my time. That's where I came from. I've not watched enough striking in my time to know what a great striker is. And I don't throw that word around great, but Izzy's great. Izzy is a great striker. This dude is super accurate. He's got unbelievable precision. He's got unbelievable vision and awareness. He's got great cage IQ. He's got good lateral movement. He can get cocky at times, and he can leave his chin up. That's the only thing I do not like. We've seen him caught like that before. But from a striking perspective, not an overall MMA perspective, from a striking perspective, he's great. Like, he's one of the best I've seen in a very, very long time. But it doesn't mean he can't be beat. If Dricus can get the success with charging the pocket and kind of backing him off and putting him on his heels, even though he fights good off his heels, but put him on his heels, get that level change, take him to, ground him, get on top of him, utilize that heavy frame, that heavy top control, and along with the grappling, he's a very good grappler. Utilize the grappling on top of Izzy and just tire him out, and never let him get his timing going, never let him get his rhythm. 1,000% Dricus can win this fight. Now, doesn't mean he's the better fighter. No. Not everybody that wins a fight means you're a better fighter, but he had the blueprint and he had the game plan to win the fight. And Dricus does have a very keen eye for what you need to do to win the fight. But he's not going to win the fight. I don't think he's winning this fight. I would literally give him the respect that he deserves if he wins this fight. And I do think he deserves respect. I do. But he hasn't had enough of an overall body of work to garner the respect, the heavy respect that he's getting over somebody like Israel, who's got an amazing body of work. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. Like, people are forgetting. They want to lay on the alibi that, he was at middleweight. But they're forgetting that he's the only one to knock out Pereira and not beat him, literally flatline him where they had to wake him up. You could say, okay, well, he was at middleweight. Okay, but he still did it. He still knocked him out in a weight class where that's where he was his entire career. This is new for Alex Pereira to come up to light heavyweight. He's been a middleweight his whole kickboxing career. They fought at middleweight in kickboxing. He came into the UFC at middleweight. He was knocking dudes out. He knocked out Izzy. Then Izzy knocks him out, and everyone's like, well, he did it at middleweight. He did it at the weight that Alex Pereira fights at, middleweight. And then he bumped up to light heavyweight. And now he's much to me, much more suited at light heavyweight. But you can't have it both ways. Because then if I'm not allowed to lean on, if we're not allowed to lean on, well, Izzy went up to light heavyweight, and that's why he lost to Jan, then you can't lean on that. You can't have it both ways. So I think Dricus is a really, really good fighter. I do. I think he's a good fighter. But the thing I think about Dricus is this. I think Dricus is almost like one of those NFL players, like you get a gadget quarterback, right? Like say you have a Peyton Manning style quarterback. You have a real pocket quarterback. He goes down, and you get some, perfect example, almost like what happened with my team years ago, the 49ers, when the 49ers ended up pulling this kid from Nevada, UNLV, Colin Kaepernick, and they bring him on the field, and this dude's, tearing teams apart. Literally tearing them apart, running for 80-yard touchdowns, throwing touchdowns, scrambling, rushing for 50, 60 yards a game. Like, nobody can figure him out. Then what happens is the defensive coordinators start putting a beat on him and start saying, all right, now I'm starting to figure this out now. We got enough looks from this guy. He's not going to fool us anymore. And that was the end of that. So that's the way I look at Dricus. I look at Dricus like a guy where, people just haven't figured him out yet. Like, the coaches really don't know what to expect from him yet. They don't know really what he wants to do because he kind of gives you different looks all the time. They know he's a good grappler. They know he could be a weight bully. They know he can be an awkward striker, but a good striker. So it's almost like they're still trying to figure out, or they were still trying to figure out, where do we want to push this guy? Where do we want to make him fight? We obviously want to make him fight in his weakest spot, so where do we want to make him fight? So now what's going to happen is Izzy knows, no matter what, even if his biggest strength was his striking, let's say it's, and I personally don't think it is. I think he's a good striker, but I think in this fight he's much more well served on the ground. And I think Izzy is going to really just dial in and clock in on staying on his feet. I think he did a lot of he looks a lot more muscular. He looks stronger. I think he has to be in this fight. I don't think he could be frail. If he comes in frail and is just looking to utilize speed, I think he's going to be in trouble in this fight, because I think eventually the weight bully and the weight and the strength of Dricus is going to weigh on him, and then he's going to start getting his way. Then the takedowns are going to start getting easier, and then you could see him kind of pulling away and maybe even finish him. But he did put on weight, and you could see he's put on weight. You could see his strength and conditioning training is a little bit different. He is powerlifting a little bit more, and you could see this is his way of saying, yeah, this ain't for my power. This is not for my knockout power. I don't need that. I got that. I do that in numbers. I don't do that in one shot. This is more for, I need to kind of bully the weight bully. When he comes in to bully me, I need to show him who's boss. I need to, get my underhooks and turn off and break away. I need to show him he's not going to take me down as easy as he thinks. I'm going to give him a long night on the feet. That's where I think that comes in. Now, the actual weight that he did put on and the muscle that he did put on, could it hinder his striking? 1,000%. Can there be lactic acid buildup in his muscles that he has not felt before because he has added some muscle? 1,000%. These are all things, when you have bigger muscles, they take more oxygen to oxygenate. You got to oxygenate them. So you will get fatigued quicker. Is he going to handle that well? Is his hands going to start dropping? Are you going to start seeing him going like this and shaking out that lactic acid? Maybe. I don't think he put on that enough size, though, to get to that point. I think he put on just the right amount of size that it's going to be beneficial to him, and it's probably not going to hinder him too much. So listen, I think both fighters are. I think one fighter is elite, and I think one fighter is very good. That's the way I look at this fight. Like I said, there's no shame on Dricus. I think he surprised me numerous times. He's a very good fighter. I like him. I like his demeanor. I like his attitude. I like his moxie. Not a huge fan of his style, but I do like him, and I think he's very good. I'm not going to sit here and crap on him in any way, shape, or form, saying he's this and he's that. But I think he's a very good fighter. On the other side, I look at Izzy as an elite fighter. He's one of the guys that can go down in the conversations as one of the best, where you're not going to hear that from Dricus. No one's going to sit down one day and say, let's talk about who the best of all times is. And they're going to say, well, Dricus is up there. Nobody's ever going to say that. I don't care what anyone says. Well, it's, how do you know he could go? They're not going to say that because it's never going to get to that point where he just goes to a murderer's row and When Izzy came in, it was like something that people haven't seen in a while, since like an Anderson Silva. It's a little bit different. He brought in a style that we were like, bro, like people were going, well, you know, what was once grappling, which was once like the Habib era. Now this guy's coming in and he's bringing the striking era with him. You know, so where Dricus is just a well-rounded, really good MMA fighter, but he doesn't have that one Lone Star standout skill set. You know what I mean? So Izzy's different, man. Izzy's special. And I think that if he loses this fight, I think it's because he loses it. And I don't mean like, I know it sounds like kind of counterproductive, that statement, but I mean, I think he loses it on his own merit. Bad game plan, didn't show up, timing is off. But if you get a 100% Izzy and you get a 100% Dricus, both of these guys are on their game at 100%. I think Izzy wins 7 or 8 out of 10 times. It's my honest opinion. I think there'll be that 1, 2, maybe 3 times where, you know, Dricus catches him and, you know, puts him out or takes him down and maybe subs him. But I think if they fight at their top of their game, 10 and 10, I think Izzy wins 7 or 8 times. That's just my opinion. I categorize him that good. So, listen, I hope Izzy wins. I'm picking him to win. I don't know if he's going to knock him out. I don't know what he's going to look like. I don't know what kind of style he's going to bring in there. I just know that if he brings that methodical style in there and kind of plays Matador, just matadors him, and stays on his feet, I think eventually what's going to happen is, like, Dricus has a bag. They both come into the cage with bags, right? All fighters have a bag that they come into the cage with. When the going gets tough in the later rounds, and you were going through the bag, and you took this weapon, you threw it at him, it missed. You took this weapon, you threw it around, it worked a little bit, but didn't get the job done. Then you take this. Eventually, I think Dricus is just going to run out of tricks, where Izzy's got an arsenal of things he could just keep throwing at him. He could just keep dropping bombs and keep dropping traps and keep dropping all these things. And if they do go deep, it's going to come down to who's the better magician, who's got the bigger bag of tricks. And I think it's safe to say that Izzy has much more tricks in his bag than Dricus does. You know what I mean? So, just my opinion. Like I said, everyone, tell me what you think. Who do you think is going to win and why? Give a good reason. If you're picking Dricus, give a reason why you think he's going to win. Don't just say, well, you know, he beat Robert Whittaker, or because he's the champ, or because Izzy took time off. Like, give me a reason, a stylistic reason why you think that Dricus is going to win this fight. I'll talk to you later. We'll have a full breakdown, obviously, later on during the week. We'll break down the whole main card, and I'll give you all my leans there. I'll talk to you later.